Welcome to episode 120 of Film Courage. My name is Karen Warden. Hello.
Hello, my name is David Brandon. Our guests today are the filmmaking duo behind the spiritual documentary Wake Up, about Jonas Elrod, a 36-year-old man leading an ordinary life until one day, waking up to a totally new reality. Suddenly, Jonas was hearing and seeing angels, demons, auras, and ghosts.
Wake Up follows this fascinating story as what he likes to say, an average guy who develops an ability to access other dimensions that many of us are not able to see. Physicians gave Jonas a clean bill of health and were unable to provide an explanation of why this was happening. As a result, Jonas's life will never be the same, leading him to access unseen information while living in the reality of a five-sensory society. Please welcome to Film Courage via Skype, Miss Chloe Crespi and Mr. Jonas Elrod. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hi.
Just want to make sure we have Jonas. Say hello, Jonas.
I'm still here. Hello,
Cool.
guys.
All right,
Awesome.
beautiful.
Awesome. Chloe, why don't we begin with you? First off, what is your background, and also what attracted you to photography?
I dropped out of college to go to my own makeshift film school, which was basically working for commercial music video directors in LA. And I did that for a few years, and I sort of realized that photography would be a really accessible way for me to get into film eventually.
Chloe, speaking of sort of your photography, how many cameras do you own, and if you and if you want to be a professional photographer, do you have to own your own camera?
I think so, because you develop a relationship with your camera. I mean, it becomes like an instrument. The more you play it, the more comfortable you are with it. So I would say definitely you should own your own camera. And I have I'm looking at my camera closet, about 5 cameras here.
How do you decide where you're going to set up the camera?
Basically, I try and move around the subject and find the best angle and just experiment. And I think when you hit it, you know it. You feel it inside. It's intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do hit it and you know it, does that mean you're gonna sort of stay there for a longer period of time and make sure you get the photo you want to get?
With photography, it's more about moving constantly for me. Obviously, with video, the main lesson that was really hard for me to learn in the beginning was to stay still and not move around too much. So they're really different that way.
Interesting. Well, Jonas, let's talk to you for a moment now. We know from the film that you grew up in what you term a sort of God-fearing part of Georgia, and you went to church as a youngster. What happened from there?
Well, quite a lot. I definitely grew up in kind of a small-minded religious background. That was never pushed on me, but I guess around 9 or 10, I just didn't make a lot of sense. So I've always kind of chased this notion of God, or why am I here? And then I gave up about 6 years prior to these experiences opening up for me.
Okay.
And let's go right to the moment in San Francisco, Jonas. When you say, or as you say, the veil dropped, what was happening in your life at that time, and sort of what was your emotional state?
Well, what had happened was, yes, everything opened up for me where I started, now that I know, accessing these other realities. I was finishing up my first documentary in San Francisco, and I was labeling tapes and charging batteries, and that's when everything happened. The temperature plummeted, and if you see the film, I kind of go into description and Wake Up. In the corner of the room, a light opened up, and a bunch of spirits started coming in the room and showing me things and telling me things, and that process lasted about 7-8 hours. And then the next morning I finished up the documentary shoot. A couple days later I came back to New York, really tried to process, really push my boundaries on what the hell is going on, and shortly after that I had a conversation with Chloe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're gonna come up on that in just a moment. When you say you heard, not only did you see, but you heard the voices, and this went on for 7 hours. What were they saying?
Well, I mean, the one thing that really stood out was they had showed and told me to expose what was happening. I didn't fully understand what that meant, and to be real frank, it was a lot of the things I saw was very beautiful and very warm, and then some of the stuff I saw was terrifying. Not to mention, under the guise that the fact that I'm seeing any of this was very, very uncomfortable at times. And like I said, I powered through the next day at work, and I came home, and then that's when really the roof caved in on what does this mean, what the hell is going on. I never had the thought or idea, wow, I'm losing my mind. For some reason, I was certain that this was all real, but in Wake Up, Chloe and I definitely take the steps to make sure that is indeed the case. And if not, it would have been a really short film, so I kind of looked up on multiple avenues.
Wow. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine myself the next day, trying, like you say, trying to power through that work day. It's pretty amazing that you were able to get yourself up out of bed and to work. That that you literally just didn't stay at home.
Well, what's funny is, I mean, I'm such a film nerd. I mean, a total film junkie, and you didn't hear the rattling of chains or the heightened special audio sounds or the music. What was so funny and odd to me was everything was completely silent, and I definitely ran the gamut of emotions through all those hours between scared and nervous to elated to annoyed to wherever the case may be.
I'm curious too, with these spirits, I wonder why they were wanting you to expose what was happening. Do you have an answer? Do you know why that they kind of wanted you to come forth with that?
I mean, I don't know. I was a documentary filmmaker before this happened, and I've always, this idea of why am I here, the meaning of life, has always been a very strong one for me. But I couldn't really hazard a guess of why me, but I guess I would say why not at this point.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because it gets into a lot of weird territory. I'm not sure. I guess maybe I was open to the fact, and this is how it all worked out.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, is that these type of experiences or mediumship or whatever comes to people that these spirits know will be open, people that they know will receive it in a way that they can be willing to share. So from that experience, that one night and the following day, is that sense still as strong as it is today, as it was that one day?
Chloe and I talk about this because Chloe has her own sensibilities as well. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be, but it's kind of the idea that I have a trampoline in the backyard and I'm just used to jumping on a trampoline. I still see stuff and have these experiences, but it doesn't seem as strong as when it first opened.
Okay.
There's also a thing where I'm not big and wanting to pursue to open these gifts up more than they are. I'm fine with it. Really, the kind of juice for me was getting me on a spiritual path, and definitely, and I say spiritual in quotations, but having me understand some things that I've chased for a long time.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to come back. We're going to come back to Chloe in just a moment. I just have one more question in this regard, Jonas. Because one thing we put on our Facebook page today was the quote the statement or the fact that you have at the beginning of the movie that 71% of Americans believe that angels really do exist. Have you seen your own angels? Have you seen the angels of others?
Well, I'll be really honest, guys. I've had misgivings on seeing angels and demons. That was my perception, and that's totally what was presented to me. But what's not really mentioned is I see other things that are part of other religions as well. And so I read a review talking about a big Christian spiritual wake-up movie, and that couldn't have been further from me and Chloe's intent what we were presenting. My humble point of view around it is it's all out there. And maybe because Christianity was something I grew up with, that's why things were presented in that order. But I've seen a lot of things other than just things associated with Christianity. As far as seeing spirits around people, spirit guides, if you want to call it that, I've seen that, absolutely. But, I don't wake up in the morning and like little bluebirds and heralds of angels dancing all around Brooklyn. That's certainly not the case. But at times I have had peeks into this.
Okay. Well, Chloe, let's go back to you for a moment. Do you remember where and when you met Jonas?
Yeah, I met him outside of a New York City building that my friend lived and worked in, and Jonas also worked in, and I would see him out of the building, and I had a feeling I should talk to him. And it took a few weeks, I think, till I kind of found an excuse to talk to him. And he just recently had this experience, and somehow we got right to it. And as Jonas mentioned, I've had my own experiences as well. And yeah, it was off to the races right away.
Jonas, you said that you know, when the veil dropped, you know, you shortly thereafter went to see Chloe. And I guess, you know, and tell her about these experiences. Can you tell us about your decision to roll cameras on this story of yours? And was it sort of a firm decision?
No, I mean, and Chloe can attest to this too. I don't know how we got on the subject so quick, but within moments of speaking with Chloe, we went directly there. And then finding out that she had her own experiences definitely felt a level of trust, because you know, things I learned in the film about meditation and chakras and different dimensions. This wasn't in part for the course from my small uptown bringing, you know, where I was raised. And I guess a week or two later, I told her what the Spirit had said to me. And as time went on, we did get on with it and started filming. Prior to that, I started filming home interviews with my girlfriend, Mara, just so that I could have the footage raw, so we're not playing Remember When and cueing the dry ice and the music. One thing I think that works about Wake Up is that it's brutally honest and authentic and raw. And, you know, in time we got our production crew together and we were off to the races.
You know, Chloe, how could you relate to this story? What were your personal experiences?
I don't see things as much or as often as Jonas, but I've always felt them since I was a child and had a few out-of-body experiences as a child as well. And, I've heard some voices and seen ghosts as well. So, but mine is more of a sort of intuitive or feeling than seeing.
Interesting. And so you say that you had a very small production team. How many people were on this team?
It was me and Chloe, our producer, Steve Tinsky, for quite a long time. Then we went to post-production. We brought on Chris Seward, who's done a lot of amazing documentaries, and that was the core team. So no craft services, no 15 PAs. It was literally, for the most part, Chloe and I in a rental car and a camera, and just listening to be guided where to go.
Mm-hmm. This is Film Courage. We broadcast live every Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on LATalkRadio.com. Holly Shorts is now 1 month away, and Karen, you have your outfit already picked out. And I always love this time of year when you get all excited about Holly Shorts.
Yeah, it's hard not to be excited. I am ready to go. This year's festival features the work of Kristen Stewart, Kate Hudson, Dakota Fanning, Rachel Weisz, Jennifer Aniston, Woody Harrelson, Robin Wright, and talented filmmakers from all over the world. Excuse me, I'm so percleped. I'm excited to do this. So for the latest info on Holly Shorts, visit hollyshorts.com.
We are on the line with Wake Up filmmakers Chloe Crespi and Jonas Elrod. You can order the DVD or rent the download of their film right now from their website, wakeupthefilm.com.
Mm-hmm. Well, this question goes out to both of you. So in the beginning, you consult these various experts, one of whom is Jay-Z Knight, and there's several others, about 13 of them. Which of their messages as to possibly why this was happening or what the reason was behind having an awakening like this, which message did you resonate with?
For me, it was Llewellyn Von Lee. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jonas has a similar answer, but he really rocked us both. I mean, you see the few people that made the film, but we talked to countless other people. And he really affected me at one point. I was crying so hard I could barely hold the camera because so much truth was coming from him. It was just really powerful.
Oh, wow.
We've had this question come in from Joke and Biagio, and they're asking, does the film capture moments when he's seeing the entities around him? And that makes me think of the picture we see in the film. Jonas, can you talk about the picture that we see in the film?
Oh, shucks. If we have to. At this point, guys, it's so hard for me to watch the film, but my girlfriend Mara was very skeptical, and so my thinking was, if I just got a picture or some footage of this stuff, I could show her. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
You're coming in and out right now for some reason.
Do you have your radio on, maybe, or your
I don't.
computer? Okay.
Okay. Well, let's keep trying there, Jonas, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. So Chloe and I went to Italy to meet with this medium who is able to take pictures of these entities using software.
Yeah.
And something showed up that I'd seen quite a bit for a year or two, and just seeing that captured in a photograph, really, the dime dropped. I guess it was unconsciously a part of me thinking, well, maybe this is in my head. But he captured an entity on film, and there's been debate on what that is. And to be honest, I would rather people check it out and come up with their own opinion as opposed to say what I think it is. But it was definitely cool stuff. The irony is, I didn't even get a photo and how much less to show anything.
I think we're hearing some feedback.
Isn't that,
Jonas,
it's almost some
otherworldly.
Surreal interference going on right now as we start to talk about the evidence in the film. Chloe, are we still have you?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks.
Okay. Jonas, I want to go back just real quick. As far as the 13 experts or so that you spoke with during the film, which one's message had the most profound effect on you?
They all had their place for me, but I'll have to go Llewellyn as well. That's really shifted.
Yeah, he was amazing. And I'm curious, too, how did you choose whom to interview?
Chloe, different things resonated we went after. And Chloe had more time in communities. Quite a good came from her. And then certain things resonated with me went after spending time on Fishing Quest.
I think we're getting some kind of divine intervention here. I'm wondering if we can call you back, Jonas, on your landline or a phone, the cell phone we have. Maybe we'll call you on the cell that we called you yesterday.
Yeah, because we can't miss this good stuff here.
This is too good. So
Ronan, can you come in for a moment? When you hear this and help us get reconnected on another line. I would love for Chloe. I'd love for you to take that question as well.
Sure. Do you guys hear feedback with me as well?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You sound great.
A lot of the people were people that I had admired and sort of followed. I've grown up in a pretty spiritual environment all my life. Unlike Jonas, my parents are old hippies, and so I was familiar with a lot of the teachers, and others we just found through fate, which we really tried to let lead us a lot through the process. For example, we didn't know why, but we had the feeling we should get in a car and drive. We had a few hours to kill. We ended up at a conference, and I happened to hear Jay-Z Knight speaking, and she was pretty powerful, so we approached her. And actually, we were the first people that she ever allowed into her school with cameras, so it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was it was really interesting to see that on the inside, and to see just the various exercises that this camp that everyone goes through, the Jay-Z camp.
It
was really incredible to watch. I was frustrated because I couldn't participate in anything because I was filming the whole time. But they really do change people's lives there. I mean, as you can see, there are people that were really profoundly affected by what she was teaching.
Okay. Now, Jonas, before we try to switch over here, let's just hear what you sound like at the moment.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
I guess he does sound pretty clear, but
sure
I think our guy Ronan's gonna try to call you on the other number here just to be safe, and we'll just switch over.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. He's doing that right now.
And as we do that, we'll go back to you, Chloe. So from being an intuitive person yourself, and also watching what Jonas has gone through, do you believe that some people are inherently good and some are evil? Or is everyone the same? We're just going through different levels of experience.
I think we're going through different levels of experience. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, though. But there is definitely darkness in the world. There's no denying that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay.
And, you asked Jonas earlier, why he thought these spirits told him to expose it. And, from my perspective, in hindsight, just seeing the reaction that we're getting at these screenings, like literally people are hysterically crying because this is the first time they've ever heard it addressed in public, and they've been going through the same thing. So, I mean, it's my personal belief that really we're going through a huge transition on the planet, and the so-called veil is thinning, and people are having these experiences more and more. Maybe not exactly like Jonas, but similar ones. And hopefully, we can make people feel more comfortable with what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm. And in trying to become more comfortable, suppose someone is having, let's say, if you want to call them psychic dreams, or they're just so sensitive that they can feel others' emotions while they're on the subway or in public somewhere. How do they deal with that? How do they ground themselves? And do they tell others out of fear of them labeling them crazy?
Jonas, I don't know if he wants to take that. I don't know if we have him on the line. If not, I'm happy to answer it. But,
go ahead, take a step.
Okay. He's
Sorry,
back.
go ahead,
No. Did you get the question, Jonas, or would you like me to repeat it?
I did. I mean, okay. Chloe gets that a lot, and I get that a lot. It's a tricky one, and that was always my question for the first, Chloe, 6 months. How do I control this? What do I do? It just varies from person to person. I mean, for me, half my family just won't talk about it. They won't say anything, because what that does is threatens their belief system. Or the worst for them would be that something's wrong with me. So you have to learn discernment. So, Chloe and I don't run around to everyone who looks at us about these experiences. Ironically enough, we made a film all about it. But I completely agree with Chloe. A lot of people are having these spontaneous awakenings for whatever reason. I happen to agree with her idea that, things are shifting. As far as being grounded, the thing that really helped me was doing grounded meditations and just really staying in my body, really feeling my feet.
Now, Jonas, in the film, you say there are two things you know of for sure: that there is a God and that life does go on after death. And these are two things that I'm not sure most people would be so sure of. From your experience, can you put into words what makes you confident that there is a God and that there is life after death?
Let me hit the second one first. I had the dubious honor, and sometimes it was definitely, I felt like a curse that I experienced this on a daily basis. I think a lot of us do. We just call it different things, and people can feel energy, feel spirit, and I've just had a lot of contact reluctantly with, I guess, the other side of life. So I feel completely confident. That sometimes angers people, I suppose. But for whatever reason, I don't have blind faith around anymore. I have these experiences which help guide me on what I now think. That being said, my whole paradigm prior to this had to shatter to bits so I could come to this information. So it wasn't this lovey-dovey thing that just showed up there overnight and said, hey, guess what? And I did a lot of work to try to clear that out. As far as the notion of God, I quit calling it God for years because that word had become a funny word to me. That word was always interlaced with religion. And these experiences that I was having had nothing to do with religion. They just happened spontaneously. So I sometimes call it source, sometimes call it God. I mean, it's all really the same thing. It becomes kind of ridiculous for both of us to watch the whole world fighting over religion, because through our experiences it shows us something different. But, yeah, I mean, I definitely stand behind those statements, but, it sometimes rubs people the wrong way for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, I know people are very fearful of it, and sometimes just for the mere fact of what you'll be able to find out about them, they just get a little bit scared.
You're right. I mean, it definitely says a lot about other people, and I try not to have any investment of the reaction to that. But the funny thing about this is we all know if we could just quiet ourselves down long enough and tap in, we all will arrive to the same truth. There's nothing special about Chloe knowing this or these experiences for me or anyone else. It's kind of when we take a swagger and an ownership on it like it's something special. It's just as natural as anything.
Yeah, I was looking online about something called, was it pineal gland activation, where if you just avoided fluoride and had like a raw food diet, that somehow you could activate this. Chloe, I'm curious for you, what was it like watching Jonas go through some of the things he experienced? And did you ever have to stop the camera because it was just too much for Jonas, for yourself, for Mara?
It was definitely tough at moments. I mean, Jonas and I and Mara grew very close during the filming process. I mean, I was spending the majority of my time with them. So, of course, if I was seeing Jonas upset, I felt upset and I wanted him to feel better and I wanted to stop it. So it was, but, usually we did keep the camera rolling. We tried to keep it as authentic as we could.
We've had this question come in from Dennis Peters.
Hey, Dennis.
And he asks, with many stories ending up being fake, especially in videos, how much cynicism have you faced?
Well, that's actually a great question. I mean, look, I'm a fan of Catfish and Bansky's film and all that. It's funny. I talked to my grandmother not too long ago, and she doesn't know what to think, and she's like, wow, you're such a great actor. And I was like, I'm not acting. That's bullshit. This was my life. And I could see her whole face kind of drop. I mean, that's going to come, I guess, here and there. There's nothing I can do to control that, nor do I really have an investment with all that. But if you watch the film and you put together all the pieces, I think you'd be pretty hard-pressed to think that this has been made up. I mean, my friend died in the process of this. I fell in love in the process of this. Mara, who was, I guess, the skeptic of the film, had her own moment in this. So Chloe and I don't really put too much energy with that. And to be honest, the greater majority of the responses have been incredibly emotional. I mean, people were very moved and crying and having a release. So we felt pretty confident when we got out of the editing room, but just the Q&As and the touring we've done have really been wonderful confirmation for us.
Chloe, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I mean, maybe ultimately, it doesn't matter to me if people believe Jonas or not. I think, we use Jonas's story as a foundation to bring out some larger truths. And if just even one of those truths can affect people, then I feel like my job was done, and maybe it has nothing to do with ghosts.
Mm-hmm. And on a personal note, do some of your longtime acquaintances and friends and family, I mean, do they hold resentment toward you for sort of this film and the level of recognition for your abilities?
Well, people either, like, this has really shifted my mother quite a bit, and she was definitely part of that God-fearing Christian, and just what I've experienced with this is not this big fear state that I sometimes find in religion. And then if you watch my father's explanation for it in the film, it had to come through a Christian-based thing where maybe Jesus is talking to you. I can't really control any of that, where it comes from, but the point we're trying to bring out is not to sell a belief system or a message or anything. It's just trying to open people up to ask questions. And like you were saying earlier, the random number generator spoke to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure for some people, Mark Coulson on The Reservation speaks to people, or J.Z. Knight and her teachings. So we're not trying to, sell a religion or a belief. We're really just trying to get people to start asking those questions again.
We touched on the random generator. That was before we came on the air,
yeah.
So perhaps for those tuned in, we should go into that.
Okay, well, I just found it fascinating, and without giving too much away about the film, but there's this random generator, right, that is able to kind of gather sort of the collective excitement in the air?
I mean, basically, it's a project out of Princeton that I found through Stephen Schwartz that I thought was absolutely fascinating. And basically, they've placed, I believe it's hundreds of random number generators around the world, and they collect all the data. And a random number generator is just a little machine, which we show you in the film. It's about the size of a pack of cigarettes, and it just produces ones and zeros at a random rate. And basically, we know through science that it will always be an equal or very close to equal amount of ones to zeros. And these are just running all the time all over the world. So what they started to find is that when there were moments where everyone's attention was focused on a single object, or event such as 9/11 or Princess Diana's funeral, that those random number generators stopped generating random numbers. So basically the idea is that we affect consciousness through our thought, and that consciousness is more fundamental than energy.
Yeah, and also what the film touches on is what was it, 4 hours before 9/11?
Right.
The numbers started to go out of pattern.
Yeah, that was really the amazing part to me as well. So basically, our mass consciousness knew that this was coming 4 hours before. They stopped being random. And on some sort of level, we sensed it, and it was documented through these random number generators.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about that as well is some people can get it through the heart and some through the head. And there have been countless people who said they've had feelings or premonitory dreams that something was off. And what's amazing about this is science is really kind of saying the same thing that ancient mysticism is saying, that we all have this ability. For whatever reason, it comes this way for me or for you this way. But this isn't a unique thing, so to speak. I mean, we all have it. I think some people work with it and address it and acknowledge it, and some people just say, well, this can't be real.
What compels me about you two and about this film is, often what I find with sort of those that have this spiritual awakening is they really go out of their way to, at least, I don't know, so that's my perception sometimes, where they really go out of their way to sort of preach to others, to sort of convert others. And really, as we've researched you two, we see that more or less you're just sharing your story. You're not out necessarily to have everyone out there buy into what you're doing.
That's a good point.
Absolutely, and I would say also that, and I think Jonas would agree, we talk to so many teachers, and a lot of the times we see people around us who wouldn't consider themselves spiritual acting in a more spiritual manner than those who profess to be masters at it. So I think we really quickly learned not to preach anything and not to judge, because it's not always as clear as it seems. And we certainly don't want to be, on the soapbox waving our finger. That was never our intention.
Amen. I mean, I think we have enough preachers and enough people telling us what to think and what to do. So, that's simply what we're doing. We're sharing a story, and then, as Chloe put it, we move to a bigger place where we look at it on a worldwide spectrum and how this works. What
has been your plan to share this story with the world? I know that you just did an Oprah interview recently.
We did. We're kind of taking the old Roger Corman template, where we played South by Southwest, and we had a tremendous response. But Chloe and I worked incredibly hard for years to get this off the ground. And so right now, as opposed to going with the traditional distribution, we're touring the film. And what's been amazing is the Q&As afterwards, hearing other people's stories, hearing their questions. It's been an incredibly symbiotic experience for us. And so we're kind of taking it on our own. Now, as far as DVD distribution, we're with Beyond Words, and they get the DVD out for us, and we're handling our own theatrical distribution.
And when did the theatrical run begin for you guys?
It's still running, buddy. We're, this is gonna. We always knew it was going to be a real grassroots, slow burn movement, and so we're playing all up and down California. I think in a week. Please feel free to check out dates on our site, which is wakeupthefilm.com, and we're going to continue to do that to really get the word out.
And are you doing it in a way where, as people sort of learn about the film and discover the film and want to screen it, are you partnering sort of, with these enthusiasts that want to help you screen it? Like, how are you selecting the venues as you go about?
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. We're finding different organizations in different areas that really enjoy the film and want to help us get it out. Unfortunately, we don't have the Spider-Man 3 budget to multi-million-dollar advertisements, and so we're really taking it on our own. And, it's been really encouraging. More and more people are coming out. More and more people are really getting into the film, and that just felt like the right thing for us to do.
And I understand people can purchase the film, too, at wakeupthefilm.com. And we understand that Trudy Styler, Sting's wife, is the executive producer of the film. How did she get involved?
We managed to get a screener to her, and she really loved it. And, she has a lot of the same beliefs and is into the same things. And, we were lucky enough to get her on board.
Is that part of what you're doing? Is you're targeting specific people and trying to get the movie, like, I guess, various influencers, people that have been known to be spiritual? Is that part of how you're spreading word on this film?
That's part of it, but I mean, it's not like we're looking for spiritual people. I mean, we think that this is a bigger film than that, and just Trudy came on board, and if people are interested or have questions, and we're going through a funny time right now where a lot of people are suffering, and that seems to be one thing that kind of gets people to ask these questions. When things are going great, you don't really think about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we're getting out on our own kind of that way. We'd love, I guess, quote unquote influencers to get behind it, but beyond that, we're just doing what feels right, and it's kind of the roadshow that we're on right now.
Well, I know you have a lot of press. You can go to the website for the film, and there's a lot of interviews there. Being a sensitive individual, as the two of you are, is it ever overwhelming to do some of this press and have all of this going on, and does it ever get to be too much?
No, I think it's fine. I mean, we played some screens in Yelm, Washington. I think there were 500-600 people. I mean, that gets a little draining, to be honest. But no, everything's been going really good as far as the tour. We're just, I think it speaks for both of us. We're just really happy that people are interested. And to me, I can't think of anything else to be more interested. When you go to a restaurant, people check it out, want to know what time, what they're serving, and this whole thing that we're trying to discuss and bring up to the forefront is something we're all going to go through. And we have a lot of passion. It's a very important topic.
And is Wake Up, is it becoming its own movement?
Slowly but surely, I believe. I mean, this is, it's a slow process, but we both get a lot of emails, a lot of inquiries, and, it's kind of growing at its own rate. As filmmakers, I mean, there's a real thing for Chloe and I to kind of step back and let it become its own thing, but that's kind of counter of how this industry works. But things have been going really smoothly so far.
Do you have any plans to write a book about the experience, and also do you plan to make a second part of the film?
Oh, boy. If we do the second one, I'm going to become the DP, and we're going to film Chloe's life for about 4 years.
What do you think of that, Chloe?
I mean, she looks much better on film than I do, so that'll be helpful. But I think we're just focused on really launching this. Any other plans haven't really come up, and the idea of being filmed again is nothing I would look forward to. It was some people talk about, your spiritual path was having all these experiences. Really, a large part of it was looking at my own shit on camera in the edit room for 14 months and really start to learn and grow that way. So that was no day at the beach, but in hindsight, it was quite the blessing.
And would you be up for that idea, Chloe, to turn the cameras around?
Oh God, there's a reason I'm on the other side of the camera. I'm terribly shy, but yes, more and more, I will say that I'm trying to open up to being on the other side of the camera. As far as having Jonas follow me for a year, that is a little daunting. I have a lot of respect for him and allowing us to come into his life, and Mara as well. It was really some deeply personal moments, and I think that's also why people are connecting to it too. It's just they're human moments, they're emotional moments, and they're real.
I know, too, you spoke with Stephen A. Schwartz of the Cognitive Sciences Laboratory, and he gave a great sort of analogy about this. He said that it's an interesting path that you're on, but he would not define it as sort of the purpose. And maybe I'm not articulating it properly, but he said, you might kind of look back on this experience a year from now and say, yes, I have this ability, but what do I do with that experience? Can you kind of touch on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, Stephen nailed it. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about at the time, but there's a real danger when these things open up to really get lost in it. And so through the Q&As, a lot of people raise their hands and want to know how they can turn these abilities on. For me, I really had to start working and dispensing with these experiences, because for me, I was getting lost in the experience. So you're intuitive, so what? And I'm really at a place of like, that's fine, but what does that really mean? And Llewellyn Von Lee, the Sufi mystic, really kind of called me out, because I was speaking tagline language, but not really behind it. And so that really helped me shift to realize the experience is fine, but what does that do for you? And that's where I put a lot of work on trying to clean myself up and really get closer to source or whatever you want to call it, as opposed to being the guy that has these experiences. I mean, it really is to kind of quote Mara from the film, so what? For me, it was such a wild experience and a wild break from the reality I've known that, certainly I was stuck in that moment for a while. But I just don't have a lot of interest in it at this point, to be completely frank. I have a great interest of cleaning up and moving closer to source.
And Joke and Biagio are following up here, and they're asking, is there a next step after touring the movie, beyond the film, beyond the, or books? Do you know what's coming next?
No. Chloe, do you know what's coming next? I'd love to know.
Yeah, maybe he can tell us. No, I mean, that's pretty much the plan right now, is just to keep touring and doing interviews. And it's a slow process. We're an independent production, and it's just going to be, I think, a battle of the wills by the end of it. But word is spreading, and as Jonas mentioned, we are getting more and more emails from people every week. So it's been really reaffirming.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing, I mean, the book thing came up a couple of times. I don't really have, I think everything I needed to say, I said in the film, and there's a real danger in this culture when these experiences happen. People feel like experts, or they feel like some guru guy. And so there's enough books out there, and there's actually some really great ones if you're interested. But, we think the film speaks for itself, and that's probably as far as we're going to go as far as manufacturing something. I believe that everyone has access to this information. It just comes in different ways. Like Chloe's very intuitive, and she feels it. That's the same way with my girlfriend Mara. I just think that mine's, a little different. Mara made a really smart comment about the fact, well, listen, if you were born in India and you were wearing a toga or something, this wouldn't be such a different thing. But the fact that you're this kid from a small town in the suburbs, a very pasty white guy, that's very different. But like I said, through our experiences of meeting all these people, Chloe and I have met plenty of people that have these abilities. Some people are still, quote-unquote, in the closet or scared to talk about it. And I don't feel like people approach me fearful or like, wow, he knows what I had for breakfast. And even if they did, that's not what I have or what I do. Sometimes the information pops in my head. And I would really say it's that way for everybody. I think that Chloe kind of nailed it. I think people are happy that there's some sort of voice addressing this. Because when these open up, it can be very hairy business. I mean, some people may get institutionalized by overzealous parents or put on drugs or scapegoated or, whatever the case may be. So we're hoping that this will give someone a little bit of a platform to see that it's not just me and it's not as uncommon as one would think. I think on certain elements that these experiences are very common. I think a lot of people brush it off because it doesn't jive with their prior belief system. But that's just my opinion.
In regards to the nuts and bolts of the production, how many hours were you rolling camera for each day that you were with them?
Oh God, it depends. It for Jay-Z night, literally, probably we would roll for 10 hours a day, and all in all, total we shot over 400 hours. And I filmed Jonas for about a year, which you will see marked by all the various haircuts that.
Of course.
And great sunglasses too.
I'd say you probably filmed longer than that. I mean, I had a hard job in the film, but Chloe really had a difficult one because with documentaries, it's always kind of the cardinal rule. As soon as you put the camera down, lightning's going to strike. And so she was very great and smart about keep filming. So she may film for 10 hours and get nothing, or film for 20 minutes and really get an amazing moment, kind of like what Mara had at the monastery with the monk.
And Jonas, from your side, I mean, did you get to a point? I mean, obviously, the actor is always supposed to be aware of where the camera is. But did you feel like you really wanted to capture certain moments on camera? Like, what was your approach, or you just had that confidence that Chloe was going to be there for whatever moment that was special that needed to be caught on film?
I had the utmost confidence and respect for Chloe, and sometimes things would pop up, and she would would nod and she'd catch it, but she was on it. But it's just from doing a documentary, my experience was whenever I put the camera down, it would be the most amazing soundbite. And also realizing going in, I didn't realize the film was going to come out the way it was. I thought I would be a quote-unquote host to investigate this stuff. And as time went on, and this was the Chloe's pushing me, he's like, no, this needs to be about your experience, and then we'll move to bigger places. So like I said, it was no day at the beach. It was very, very hard on both of us, but when all is said and done, we're both very happy with how things turned out.
And as we wrap up here, what's your message to people that either come up to you after the screenings or email you and tell you that they have these feelings or they've had dreams like this? What's sort of your message to them?
Yeah, I mean, I have certain things I'll tell people, but I'm not trying to present myself as having the answer or a message, to be real honest. I think that we have enough people telling us what to think and what to believe. All I can do with confidence is share my story, which eventually worked for me. And, everyone's different. So, I mean, I could say we're all one or we're all connected or any of these other things that millions of other people have said, but for some people, until they experience it is when they're really going to know. So, not to be a wet towel, but I don't really have a message.
Sure.
I'm just trying to share information. So there's a lot of people that will tell you a message.
Anything to add, Chloe?
No, I mean, I think, there's more than and meets the eye. That clearly there's so much more around us, and people are starting to open up to that more and more, and hopefully they'll see that they're not alone. And I grew up in an environment where this was sort of commonplace. I mean, when Jonas came to me with the idea of the movie, I thought no one would be interested in watching it, just because to me I was so sheltered in my environment. I thought everyone sort of had this ability, more or less. But really, I want people to know that they're not alone, and maybe what Jonas sees and what I feel is reality, and what we perceive as reality isn't. We don't know, but we just have to be open and pay attention to the signs and keep working on ourselves.
We've been speaking with Chloe Crespi and Jonas Elrod of the film Wake Up. For more on Chloe and Jonas, or to order the DVD, please visit wakeupthefilm.com, jonaselrod.com, chloecrespi.com, and also blog.chloecrespi.com and Chloe Crespi Photography on Facebook.
Yeah, we highly recommend each of you listening find this film, discover it, and you have to see this. It's a phenomenal, spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. And we love the film. Karen, you've already watched it 3 or 4 times already. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
So we're grateful that each of you listening joined us for another edition of Filmmakers.